Smoppy for life. Yeah. Smoppy for life. Stand up when the chief is here. Hands up. Yeah, the chief is here. Stand up when the chief is here. Hands up. Yeah, the chief is here. Yeah. Smoppy for life.
Hey everybody, good afternoon, S Group. We have a very interesting one today and we're going to do it in 20 to 25 minutes. You know, there's vitamins, there's homeopathy, there's Chinese traditional medicine. But what about Muthi? What about Muthi, the local traditional medicine? And by the way, the first bottle I pulled out of the box was male libido. Maybe that's going to say something with me. Roger, how are you? Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. It's wonderful to be here. I am indeed a voracious podcaster, so it's really a pleasure to be here and to talk to you today.
Okay, I'm on the hook, am I? So, you know, even though a lot of people doubt the efficacy of vitamins, homeopathy, Chinese traditional, they are multi-billion-dollar businesses, and vitamins must be in the hundreds of billions. So, you know, people do look for alternatives, and why not Muthi? So tell us how it all came about.
Okay, well, I mean, I want to take you a step back there. So if we look at herbal medicine, indeed, okay. Well, let's explain the brand. It's the brand name is Isipetu Sempilo, which
not easy to say.
Loosely translated is source of health. So the name, as the name suggests or implies, that nature is the source of health. And I mean, if we go back in time, we'll see that a lot of our current medicines are based or indeed come from plants. For instance, do you know where aspirin comes from, Rob?
KwaZulu-Natal? No.
No, aspirin. So aspirin, the famous dispirin in South Africa, comes from the willow bark. So if you had a headache and you wanted the natural version of aspirin, you take a piece of willow bark and, you know, distill it or drink it or eat it or chew it, and you'd get the same effects as you would get from a dispirin. So there are multiple examples of that. And indeed, plants are the mother of many pharmaceutical chemicals and compounds and medicine. For instance, the Madagascar Periwinkles, this beautiful green herb that grows quite wildly in KZN. In fact, it's an invasive species. We're told to pull it out. That plant is the mother of chemotherapy for leukemia. Vinblastine and vincristine comes from that plant.
And what about malaria? That comes from a bark from a Peruvian tree, which goes into gin and tonic. So people think gin and tonic protect you from malaria, but it's actually the tonic, not the gin.
Indeed, and in fact, there's a really famous one in Africa, and we know it as umhlonyan, which is the African wormwood, which is used in Africa as the anti-malarial. So indeed in Malawi, widely used as the treatment for malaria. So, and those chemicals also get isolated. And of course, they're actually very dangerous ones. So the vinblastine and vincristine coming from the Madagascar periwinkle, if you overdose on eating the leaves or the bark of the plant, you could get sick, and indeed your hair could fall out. And the famous one is the opium from the poppy plant, isn't it? So, and a lot of the so a lot of the painkillers and such from these plants that are used in hospitals today come from the opium plant.
Yeah, the derivation of some, yeah.
Yes, correct. So, and indeed, so there are thousands of plants, and all of them have chemical compounds. You can imagine that when a plant dies, or a flower or a shrub dies, it disappears very quickly. So there are multiple organisms, bacteria, fungi in the environment, and mostly in the soil where it's dark and damp. And these things then break down these plants very quickly. The plant has a natural immune system whereby it uses those chemicals within it to stay alive. So, to ward off those fungi and bacteria to make sure it stays alive. And even for an interesting example is like the acacia trees in the thornveld. When the giraffe starts to chew on it, it sends through tannins into the leaves and it changes the taste, and the giraffe moves off into the surrounding bush. So it's a survival mechanism.
We accept the thesis. Now, how do you get to the next level? How did Muthi come about?
So over the years, thousands of years ago, I mean, we, as you mentioned, traditional Chinese medicine, they've been around for over 5,000 years. We know that African medicine, well, plants have been used and eaten and consumed for many thousands of years. And of course, they would have stumbled across the medicinal properties of it. Traditional Chinese medicine, over 5,000 years old, has been documented. Books have been written, very well studied. So African plants to date haven't technically been as well studied. In fact, only in the last 30 or 40 years has a lot of work been done on our plants, and some of them have crossed borders and are being used as medicinal for their medicinal properties overseas. So, I mean, if we go back to our, a lot of the history was with the Khoisan, and they were using the plants, and the information's handed down mostly by word and taught. It's a verbal tradition, and unfortunately, we haven't written our books and documents and documented our history for the period of time that the Chinese have. And indeed, the medicine is I would say, in trouble at the moment because of a variety of things. We'll get to that. But so we know that the plants have medicinal properties, and they've been used and proven. And a lot of them have gone into universities and such to date, and laboratories. And the medicinal properties and the remedies for ailments has been proven through the discovery of their phytochemicals or their plant chemicals.
Okay, so for X hundred or whatever years, the Nguni, who we're going to talk about, and the Zulus, have been using certain barks as traditional medicine, correct?
Yes.
And which are the sort of most famous ones that we may have heard of?
Well, I mean, they could use the leaves, they could use the barks, and they could use the roots. And of course,
which trees and plants? Which are the ones we are most familiar with?
Well, a very famous one is the pepperbark tree, and that's a fantastic expectorant. It helps clear the lungs, helps with your breathing, and indeed they use the bark of this tree, and that tree is almost extinct in the wild at the moment, although Sappi has planted thousands of them. And that's a famous one. And of course, the African ginger, hugely in demand, extinct now in the wild due to overharvesting.
And who is prescribed the Muthi at the moment? Is it the Sangomas, or is it more a sort of family, the mother and the grandmother and the carer? How has it been passed on?
Just a slight correction there. You get an Inyanga and a Sangoma, and Tagat, which is so there's a important distinction here. An Inyanga is a herbalist. A Sangoma could be a herbalist, but also deals with the spiritual aspects.
I was just testing you there. I knew that.
Well, you did know that. No, it's a very important distinction, Rob. But so just a bit of detail there. Inyangas, there are over 200,000 Inyangas, in Southern Africa, and they are prescribing the medicine. So there's actually 20-fold amount of Inyangas versus GPs in Southern Africa. So they're prescribing the medicine. But not only that, you can find the herbal medicine on every street corner. You can find them at the herb markets, for instance, the one in Durban called at Warwick Street Junction. They trade in 1,500 tons annually of plant matter, which is leaves, barks, and roots. So it's a huge amount of plant matter being absorbed. 1,500 tons, roughly 50 interlinked loads worth of plant matter.
But it's not branded. It's in jars and bottles, and it's sold as is. You've got to mix it into a paste or into water, correct?
Indeed. So people would buy it from there in a Checkers packet or a little bag, and then they'd be told to take it home and mix it in some hot water and drink it over the next few days. So, and of course, there's also what we'd call the urbanized healer. So a lot of people would buy that and go and stand at the taxi rank and now sell a plant for an ailment or a common ailment. And so one of the problems would be that they would take the wrong plant, or they would, they'd be selling something unhygienic and or just to make a quick buck, they sell it on the street corner, unpackaged, unlabeled. Again, it's largely unhygienic. If you test these, there's a lot of E. coli and other bacteria on the plant matter. So the formalization of this space is what's important right now.
So you're formalizing it. Are you the first to do it?
I wouldn't say we're the first to do African medicine per se, but we're the first to really put a lot of effort into 100% traditional African medicines, to bring some science behind the brand, to create a really sophisticated brand. We've gone through the laboratory processes, standardization, dosing, to make sure that the products are really safe. And of course, we're using only African plants, whereas there are so many other herbal products on the market being mixed with our plants. And of course, they are famous, and they do have their efficacy values. But we intend to make sure that the African brand and the African medicines and the African tradition and the medicine sticks around.
So take my one, for example, male libido, which is also known as vusinkunzi. Beautiful pronunciation. It says the ingredients are ugonsi, umondi, ubuchi, abangola, and upuma, which is pale yellow, inosemi, mondia white, etc., etc., etc. How did you get those ingredients in the right formula?
Well, that's a good question, and that Vusi and Kunzi actually means wake up the bull, and that's
wake up the baby's arm.
So that's a very well accepted remedy. So I mean, I've sort of consulted with some experts in the space, and we've done a lot of research with those plants. So all of our plants being used have been researched, and they've been through laboratories, and they've been through universities. So we're aware of a lot of the chemical compounds. And then, I've got a bit of a...
Don't worry. And has a lot of research been done? Have the CSIR spent time on it? Has work been done?
Yes, indeed. The CSIR is doing a lot of work. A lot of work has been done there's so many plants. This is part of the challenge. A lot of them have become really famous. For instance, pelargonium, which is really, again, an expectorant from the lungs from the Eastern Cape only, and it's a multi-billion-dollar seller in Europe, specifically in Germany. They really love this plant. They just made up a name, and they've got this beautiful selling traditional herbal medicine. And if you know Linctagon, which most of us do, Linctagon is a pharmaceutical type looking product that you find in the pharmacy, and the chemists prescribe it for you when you've got a cough and a cold. That's based on the pelargonium. So indeed, that is herbal medicine. And a lot of people just don't know that they take Linctagon.
So let's ask you about the company. You've set up a company with my buddy, superhero, Gigi Alcock, who really does know. He grew up as a Zulu in Isinga and speaks fluent Zulu. And he's an investor, and you've raised some money and set up a business. Tell us the story now, the business side of it.
Yes, indeed. So we came up with the formulations, and we made 13 products. These are ones we see that are the fast movers in the space, and using 40 African plants, sustainably sourced and ethically sourced, to make sure that we can scale up when necessary. And so we developed those 13 products. We took them to market with a pilot sales project, and testing the uptake and the efficacy and how the people enjoy them. One of the interesting changes we've made is to add it or do the extraction of the plants in vegetable glycerin. So the product tastes like honey. It's really sweet, but it has a low GI, and so it tastes great. There's no preservatives, there's no alcohol, there's no chemicals, and so it's a really unique product.
Wholly organic and natural, 100%.
100% natural, and the important thing is that the plants come from where they originate, and we're supporting community agricultural initiatives. And you've got to make sure that there's a couple of rules in the background, which is indigenous knowledge systems and access benefit sharing. Indeed, you've heard about the one with Rooibos, that making sure some money gets to the Khoisan because it's their original medicine. So there are those legal aspects, legislative aspects in the background. So we took this product to market, and we've tested it, and we've had great feedback and great results. And just right now, it's using a third-party factory to do the extraction, and another third-party factory to do the packing. And it's food safety standards certified, and all the good stuff that's necessary to make sure this is a really sophisticated product and brand.
And so you said how many products have you got? How many different.
Currently 13 variations using up to 40 plants.
Okay.
So yes, well, over the period, I discussed this very early with Gigi, and I said, this is my idea, and I bounced some of the stuff off him, and he gave some pertinent points in terms of the branding and the names and all the good stuff that, unfortunately I wasn't so good at yet. So he got on board a couple of years later, and very enthusiastic about the product, and aware, of course, indeed, of the market size and the potential. So one of the interesting things is that a survey done in 1998 by Manda et al., University of Pretoria, I believe, that 80% of South Africans, prefer herbal medicine as their primary source of medicine. So, we've got a potential of 30 plus million buyers looking for our products. In that same survey, they found out that 98% of all the buyers are looking for a sophisticated product and a sophisticated doctor's room. So we're 3 years later, and currently neither of those still exist. So I saw the opportunity, and I thought it's really important. And the bigger vision is to make sure that we've got sustainability of the plants. We've got this, let's call it the ethical and sustainable sourcing. And here's an interesting number. So we understand that Southern Africa is of the top 2 or 3 biodiversity countries in the world, plant biodiversity. So of course we're a tiny landmass, but we've got so many plant species that it put us right in the top 10, rivaling China, India, in terms of
I can step in here with a stat, because I read it on this. When you go up the cable car, there's a thing that I actually read, and it said there's 7 floral kingdoms in the world. There's the whole of Europe and Western Asia, Australasia, North and South America. The Cape alone is a floral kingdom. There are 14,000 species of plant in the Cape, which is more than North and South America put together. Now, I've got something a little wrong in that, but what you're saying is correct. I've got the stats wrong.
The numbers are flabbergasting, and of course the fynbos is where it's just amazing plant species. But of course in the northern Kruger and in KZN there are many plants, and of course, and as I mentioned, all plants have medicinal properties.
So Roger, you're producing 13 different varietals. You've got them nicely packaged. You've got an extraction plant, a manufacturing and distribution plant. What's the price point? Who are you selling to at the moment, and how? What's the sales strategy?
Well, right now we're getting to, call it, independent pharmacies, a lot of Muthi shops, even spaza shops. We're just taking it to the masses. Even the more well-known stores, such as the Alpha Farms, we've got a lot of product in those stores. So, and the price point is, depending on the store level, at around 120 Rand up to 160 Rand, depending on the store. Some of them push their margins a little bit. So it's a 20-day dose.
Per bottle?
Yes.
Okay. So while you're talking, I'm going to try this one. And if I can't get up from my desk, you'll understand it's worked immediately.
Okay.
So I've got a quarter of a thing of water. It's 2 tablespoons I'm going to put in here. So you're going to Muthi stores. Just drink it straight. So you can have a sip out of the bottle. You'll see that it's actually quite yummy. It's a slight honey taste.
It's a honey taste, but I mean, it's a vegetable glycerin is a sugar alcohol, so you should get the back of the throat burn, which is similar to alcohol.
It's actually very nice, very tasty. I could drink a lot of that.
I'm glad you approve. Actually, sorry, I just want to finish that one point quickly. So you're aware of the multitude of species that we have. Now, the interesting thing is that we're in the top 2 or 3 plant biodiversity in the world, but economic use thereof of our plants, we dropped from the top 10 to number 56, and 80% of the plant biodiversity is in the top 10 countries. So it's such an untapped opportunity, and requiring a sophisticated, and it's requiring big business behind it. So that's the vision. So we're taking it to. Sorry.
We're taking it to. Carry on.
So yeah, we're taking it to pharmacies and we're getting it to the people. We've even got a lot of selling within the communities, people buying it in bulk and taking it and selling it amongst themselves, trying to make a buck for themselves, which is also important. But so we've given ourselves a glass ceiling for now. We want to get into the bigger chain stores at some point. And if anyone from one of them is listening, we'd like a soft landing in some easy terms. But important to get it out into the stores where people expect to find this. And yeah, that's where we are today.
So just, I'm going to make a comment here. When I received these in the box, I had a look and I went, this branding is like a 1970s. It's like 1970s, and it's almost faded on the front. And I really didn't like that. I was going to say, you need to make it more modern, but it's grown on me. It's sort of it's kind of retro, old-fashioned. You'd find it with cobweb and you go, I found the magic elixir. And my hair's growing back. And I actually quite like it now.
Okay.
The brand is a little difficult for an English tongue to say. But
it isn't.
You have a market. You have a sort of traditional, probably more rural than urban market. Yeah, the natural market. But how do your unit economics could be huge if you sold into the sort of me and you market, the city sophisticated international market, but
well,
that's a long way off. No?
It's most definitely not a rural market, Rob. We're getting this into the health shops. You get it into. We'll aim for discount clicks and spa. We'll get it into where people can get it, for people can buy it. Everyone is using herbal products these days. It's a booming industry, as you said, herbal products and medicine and natural medicines. If you've looked at the shelf in spa and discount, it's absolutely the shelf with herbal products is probably the biggest shelf in the store at the moment, and that's happened in the last 10 years. So we need to make sure we can get there. We want to get it to everyone that needs a natural medicine, a herbal remedy. So
one thing you must do is put on 100% natural organic on that. I mean that.
Yes.
Yeah, don't you think?
I think it isn't a tiny little thing on the back there, but it's part of the brand handle and it needs to be there. That's very important.
And if you're in clicks and discount, it's not going to be 120 Rand. I mean, that's cheap as chips.
Well, I mean, so the price point was around 165 Rand, and we wanted to keep it as low as possible, as affordable as possible, and get it out to the people. So, and indeed, there is a mass market. There are a lot of buyers, as I mentioned, and we want to get it to them. So, aiming from LSM 4 upwards, you want to make sure that everyone can afford it and can buy it.
Roger, Gerrit Steenkamp's got a great question, and he says, do you have any medical studies on the 13 products to support the claims? And I guess the claims are, does it work?
Well, so there are many scientific and chemical studies on the internet in universities, all backed up so I can show you, medicinal plants. These are all a lot of research. There's a lot of research being done in South Africa by really good authors. And the information about all of these plants is there. It's all been studied. We made sure with these 13 put-ups that they have been studied, they are safe, and they do indeed have the scientific backing that's in the claim. So part of the pharmaceutical industry that makes it difficult is that you can't technically make a claim on a product. In the traditional sense, we can say those plants were traditionally used for this. We know that through our history and our studies. And then we've also gone back and we've looked at the information of those specific plants. There's a fantastic book that's come out of an association of medicinal science, plant science, governed by the ex-Prime Minister of Mauritius, Dr. Amin Gurub Fakim. She studied this, and she's written a book with 50 of the plant, to make sure that we understand what the polyphenols and the chemicals are in these plants.
So you've got manufacturing, you've got proof, you've got distribution, you're starting to gain traction, you've got revenues, probably you've got recurring revenues. How much money do you need to raise now to scale the business?
So one of the interesting challenges is to take it into our own manufacturing facility. So it would be a GMP manufacturing facility and a pack house. and also to expand that into a tableting process. So we would have an extraction and then freeze dry or spray it onto a maltodextrin, and we could have a capsule and a tablet, and that would be much easier to export. And those type of investments, we're looking upwards of 60, 70 million rand for that type of layout. And it's a definite step in the right direction. We have to take a step away from the liquid. It's easier to ship and it's easy to take. And we want to be able to get through Africa and into Europe for sure.
Okay, so you're going to raise, let's say, 60 million rand in it. It'll have to be pretty much equity.
Yes.
And you sound perfect for Lion Cage. No, this is really interesting. I mean, I would love to see this be a success. It would be great to see South Africa produce another cool export product. And South Africa's done very well on the sort of consumer product side. So that would be terrific. And with the money, you build a manufacturing plant, but also hire, a distribution sales team, I guess.
Indeed. I mean, we need, of course, a sharp distribution sales team. We do have a sales director on board now with huge experience, and we're fine-tuning the process. We're getting the tech on board. We're making sure we get all the feedback, the data, the stats. We can manage and measure with a dashboard to know exactly where we're going and what's happening with the sales and the money and the revenue. And so it's a wonderful project, and it's a huge vision, from agriculture and getting money back to the people, right through to a product that's from the people to the people, and let's get it to the rest of the world. I mean, as you said, the traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine are global phenomenon, and African traditional medicine is largely unknown, and it's the time for carry on. Sorry,
it's the time for Muthi.
It's the time for Muthi.
What website can people go to? This is a loaded question because I can see that Lauren has it all teed up. You can discover more at Source of Health. Lauren's going to post it now, I know.
Thank you, Lauren. Indeed. And there's a lot of information on our website of all the products, and a lot of news. We're getting the information out there, and we're using that to sell from, although that's not our primary. In fact, so that's what happened in lockdown last year, the early days in this business, and I had to do a bit of a pivot, and I pushed it onto online space and put a lot of effort into that, and we had some good takeoff. But indeed, I need to get it to the people, get it to the masses, get it on the streets, get it to the shelves, so it's widely available.
Listen, Roger, well done. Gigi Alcock, I look up to him. He's super smart and he's super cool, but I've got more hair. So he's got to take this product, whereas I have to take this product. Roger, thank you. Well done. What a cool concept. And you should be on Lion Cage. We'd love to help you and love to take Muthi to the world.
I'd love to do that, and I appreciate the opportunity, and it's wonderful to talk to you and to share my passion and my dream. And thank you for having me on today.
And thank you, Lauren. Roll the credits. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lauren.